Welcome. We're glad that you're here. We know this is a crazy time going on in America. I'm Pastor George. This is Carrie, and she is a licensed professional counselor at Seasons Psychology and Associates. And during this time, we would love to take a moment and just talk about how can we deal with everything going on right now to make sure we're healthy and well during this time. Y'all may find that your kids struggle with anxiety. And when it's a normal time, they have anxiety, but when this stressful time hits, it can release even more anxiety. And I know Google and online searching doesn't necessarily help things when it comes to anxiety, because you are normally searching for the worst things like deaths in the coronavirus and stories from people dying. So if your kids or teenagers are getting anxious and they may be falling into that trap, how can you help them through this time?
Yeah, well, and honestly, there is a lot that I can say about this. Obviously, I meet with people for these types of issues on an ongoing basis. So I'm going to try to summarize a few things that I think are important, but know that it's not going to hit all of it. And as far as online goes and Googling things, sometimes Google can be your best friend, but you're right, sometimes it can be your worst enemy. And so I've directed some of my anxious clients, I'm like, you're done. No more social media for you.
Right. Stay off Google.
Like, you need to stay off of it because you're not having very good discernment on what information to take in right now. And so sometimes just limiting the exposure there is a good thing too, because especially for young kids, they don't have a good way of understanding what's going on in the world. And so when they're looking outside, that information can just be very confusing. But I think as parents, it's important, if your kid is going through anxiety, to understand some things about anxiety itself, and that it can be a natural response to unknowns and things that are outside of our control, things that could have a potentially negative or dangerous outcome. And so I think it's important to talk to your kids, to know more about what they're experiencing during this time, what they're thinking, find out what they may be thinking about that they think might happen in a negative light. Like, what kind of bad things are they expecting to happen? Because it may not be what you think it's going to be. Because even as an adult and an individual, my anxieties, because I think that as a whole, people are experiencing some anxieties, whether it's about one thing or another. Mine haven't been about, whether I would get sick or what would happen to me if I got sick. My anxieties have been more related to making sure that I'm not somebody who's spreading it to others, or I found myself in the grocery store going, okay, this person's too close to me, I need to move out. You're you're trying to navigate this the best that you can, but there are some things that you yourself are experiencing, and it's different, right? Or it's just the anxiety of, well, these people are getting to do all of these things, and I don't get to do these things, or my life is looking different than these people's lives. And then there's some anxiety of like wanting to be doing what everybody else is doing, which is natural too. So I think as we getting a little bit more practical with you, maybe just coming up with some activities that are going to be calming for your kids and for your teens. And I'm not just saying distractions like I talked about earlier, but some things that can facilitate releasing some of the tension in the body that builds up when we're anxious, calming the mind. So we're paying attention to those things as our anxieties are increasing. We're having to, right? It's like we have a baseline, and our baseline is just going up and up and up as we're getting more and more anxious. So you're wanting to find ways to kind of like bring things down, bring down the body, bring down the mind, release some of that tension. And some of those things that I teach my clients are like deep breathing, making sure that you're kind of not getting into this quickened pace of breathing. You're doing things to help relax your body, relax your muscles, doing some deep muscle relaxation, maybe even some meditation or like mindfulness related type meditation where you're focusing on the present, paying attention to the sensations of the body. You're trying to relax your body, relax your mind, focus on the here and now versus the future, or which is all the unknowns.
So it's probably healthy during this time to, even though we're all together so much, to have those times in our schedule where we can maybe just be by ourselves in a room and put your maybe child in their room just to get some time to themselves to be healthy.
100%, because I think that when you're developing that routine that I was talking about earlier, we need those spaces where, yes, sometimes we're together, but then, yes, sometimes we're apart. And so making some of that time very purposeful towards taking care of your mind, taking care of your body. Again, not making it just distraction, but allowing for some of that. So it's really a mix of things that you'll find that you need during this time. And being able to pay closer attention to that and not just let life go by. I think we sometimes know what we need, we just don't pay attention to what we need. And so when we find ourselves really tense or really uptight, yeah, you need to relax.
Right. Some parents have gotten really creative, I've seen, with how they've made activities, whereas you would just give your kids chalk and tell them to go make a smiley face or something very, very short. They have been putting painter's tape along the whole driveway and telling them to color in the square to make a mosaic, and maybe playing music for them as they do it to relax them. Some have gotten really creative. I think you got to think outside the box now with some of those activities.
Absolutely, and I think that those things are great, and those are the things that Google is good for, right? Coming up with those kind of activities.
Yeah, Pinterest.
Because I do think that during this time when people are experiencing a lot of anxiety, having some things to look forward to, things that are good, activities, developing hobbies, working on things that you didn't have time for before, projects that have gone incomplete. These are a good time to pour into your kids and give them some good stuff, some things that make this time worthwhile. Also, just mentally thinking of being grateful. What do we have to be grateful for during this time? Having those kind of activities to do creates those opportunities for us to go, oh yeah, this